you can see how all of these are kind of connected together mythologically, like in story form, because there's not necessarily like a mechanical causal relationship between the remote viewing project Stargate, which, you know, it was around for the 1970s to the 1990s. There's not a direct connection between that probably and the project Stargate, which is AI, but there is a weird thread that flows through that gives you the sense that there is a connection, and that this connection is, of course, the idea of connecting to, contacting with, or mastering something which is transhuman and is not normal human intelligence in order to gain power.
This is Jonathan Pedro. Welcome to the Symbolic World.
So with the recent announcement about Project Stargate, which is the U.S. federal government's $500 billion AI infrastructure project, we have to start thinking a little bit more about, you know, how all of the questions of what we could call alien intelligence are, how they're related to each other, and how there is, in fact, a long history, but there's also a very coherent symbolic relationship between things like the, you know, Project Stargate that was already existing in the U.S. government, which was about remote viewing, but that some of the proponents of that project ended up also talking about connecting to extraterrestrials or interdimensional beings, as people are now calling them. What's the relationship between that and also just the Stargate franchise, how it's, you know, its imagery of opening up a gate into other worlds, into other kind of realities, you know, and how that's related, for example, to AI, to psychedelics. It's like you can kind of see the coalition of points floating in front of you, but what is the relationship between all these things? And, you know, I think it's becoming clearer and clearer, you know, and you can, when you listen to the conspiracy theory types, you can often get a good sense of what it is that's going on, because, you know, it kind of bubbles around and get mixed up, and, you know, you have a mix of intelligent and not so intelligent people kind of diving in and bringing out their vision, and what you end up with is a coherent vision of narrative what is happening. Sometimes and often, I would say, the conspiracy types get the causality wrong, like in terms of just material causes and understanding, you know, what is the cause, what are the material causal relationships between the different aspects. But in terms of narrative, they seem to get it right, and so that's what I want to explore with you today on our patron video for the month of January. So before we start, I just want to say that this year is going to be a crazy year, and you know, it really thanks to your support and to the support you bring to the Symbolic World. You know, we are going to publish several books this year. We're going to publish at least 2, maybe 3 fairy tale books. Gazdag 2 is coming out like in the next few weeks. We're just waiting for it to arrive in the warehouse. Plus, Gazdag 3 will probably be published again this year, towards the end of the year, because that is like halfway finished already. The symbolism books that are around the fairy tale books, plus J.P. Marceau's book is coming out like imminently in the next few weeks as well. And Richard Rohlin's Finding the Golden Key book, which is about the sacramental imagination. That is also something. So we've got a lot of stuff happening on that front. And then plus I'm exploring all kinds of possibilities. I wrote a pilot dramatizing Genesis with Greg Hurwitz, which we kind of have to look around to see if people are interested. There are so many things happening, and really, you know, the support you're bringing to the Symbolic World is what makes it possible. Like because I'm not necessarily generating revenue, at least not yet, with all these other ventures. I think they're important and they're kind of pushing culture in the right direction. But, you know, my family and my capacity to kind of do the things I want to do is really thanks to people signing up to the Symbolic World and supporting us financially. So it is much appreciated. And so what is going on? So, you know, as you know, the Sam Altman and Larry Ellison and the other guy, I forget who he was, that all these AI guys appeared with Donald Trump to announce the Project Starlink, which is a huge infrastructure project, $500 billion for AI in the United States, which is not surprising that the United States wants to do that. But then they said it was going to be called Project Stargate. And I couldn't believe that they were calling it Project Stargate, because as most of you know, it was the name of the remote viewing project in the United States, and which seems to also in some ways been named after the movie Stargate, which was like a kind of cheesy science fiction movie about moving between different dimensions. There were series and stuff. I haven't really followed that series. I think there was also like a TV series. The science fiction nerds will know more, but all of this is kind of weirdly related. And as we are obsessed with UFOs now, and what they call UAPs, I guess now, as we are also obsessed with psychedelics and obsessed with AI, as we are also obsessed with the LGBT question and the question of identity and gender, as people are, let's say, constantly talking about immigration and migrants and all of this stuff. And as we're also kind of seeing the return of the gods and the return of principalities, and people are noticing and starting to take seriously the idea of the fallen angels, or and then all the weird conspiracy people that are obsessed with what they call the Anunnaki, or the idea that our civilization was seeded by interdimensional beings that appeared to us as gods. Like you have that on Joe Rogan, likes that kind of stuff. The obsession with the idea, with pre-flood civilizations, which you see in Graham Hancock and all these types of people. And the fact that this is like just buzzing around, and like people that talk about this stuff are getting like millions and millions of views. All of these things are actually related, all of these aspects. And they're related because you have to kind of understand it as an obsession with strange intelligence. That's the way to think about it. So an obsession with non-human intelligence, but not just an obsession with it, not just like a knowledge of its existing, but mostly a way in which you can capture non-human intelligence and then use it in order to increase your power. And this kind of feeds itself. So you can imagine like the transhuman, it's just the simple transhuman in the sense of augmenting yourself technologically, how that has to do with the idea of being able to change your gender or to become gender neutral or some kind of hybrid of gender. All of this is related also to people taking psychedelics and wanting to like encounter or to master, encounter non-human intelligences and to get some kind of insight or some kind of power from those non-human intelligences. And the ancient way of understanding this that was available to many people, like in the Middle Ages, they would call this demonology. That is the capacity to invoke non-human, strange principalities, those that aren't clearly aligned, at least clearly aligned, you could say. That's what the idea of the genie in the bottle is as well, because the genie is not an angel. The genie is, in the Islamic idea, is a jinn. It's a neutral but mostly ambiguous being that you can encounter, and then you can put under your power. Like putting it in the lamp is already this idea of like controlling it and putting it in your power, and then use it in order to accomplish what you want, to get your desire, right? And so you can see how all of these are kind of connected together mythologically, like in story form, because there's not necessarily like a mechanical causal relationship between the remote viewing project Stargate, which it was around from the 1970s to the 1990s. There's not a direct connection between that probably and the Project Stargate, which is AI, but there is a weird thread that flows through that gives you the sense that there is a connection, and that this connection is, of course, the idea of connecting to, contacting with, or mastering something which is transhuman and is not normal human intelligence in order to gain power. Because if you think of the remote viewing project that happened, in the U.S. Secret Services, in the CIA, it wasn't, how can I say this? Like, it wasn't the same as a religious endeavor. Like, it wasn't the same as the idea of bilocation, for example. So in the story of saints, you have this notion of bilocation. It's actually part of the qualities that saints often acquire. And so even there are all these weird stories about like living people now, like starets that are either living or have died recently, who would, in the morning they would say something like, oh, I talked to so-and-so, the elder of the other monastery last night. And everybody is like, what? How could he talk to the elder of the other monastery? The elder of the monastery is like, 2 hours walk away. So there's no way that he talked to him. And then as this started to happen, people realized that the saints, that the holy men in the monasteries were capable of bilocation and were capable of encountering each other. I don't know. I can't do that. But like encountering each other somehow and then exchanging with each other and then, but without leaving their monastery. These are things that happen in many of the saint stories, like weirder stuff than that too. Getting revelation from angels, like seeing angels, seeing saints, seeing Christ, seeing the Mother of God, seeing all these people. What is the difference between that and what we're doing now?
Hello friends, this is Richard Rohlin, and I am inviting you to join me for my new Symbolic World course, Tolkien and Universal History. In this course, we're going to go over the deep mythological and universal history roots of Tolkien's Legendarium and see how Tolkien sort of shows us a blueprint for reclaiming a legendary, mythical Christian framework for storytelling. And in fact, we're going to even do some storytelling of our own. This is a 5-week course. It starts on March the 3rd. We had to postpone it a week, which means there's a little more time for you to sign up. And I hope to see you there.
The difference is the difference between, being can I say this capacity being a side effect of your wisdom, your holiness, your dedication to a transcendent unity, your dedication to God, and your standing here and reaching out, trying to grab this intelligence and then bring it into the lamp, like put it into the lamp in order to be able to get what you want, which is faster, stronger, better, more power, really, then that's the difference. And it's important to be able to see the difference, because that is actually the difference between true religion and fake religion and false religion. True religion it's not that all the miracles, all the things, all of this stuff all exists, but it's not something that you master in order to increase your power. It's not something that you can control completely, and subjugate to your will. And at the same time, it's also not something that you are, how can I say this, that you are yielding your control to. So those are the two opposites, or the two extremes. One is the idea that I'm going to get a demon and I'm going to capture it in some way, and then I'm going to wrestle insight from it and basically control it in order to create things or to do things. That's one extreme. And the other extreme is something like relinquishing my own power, and then being completely subject to this higher thing. And those seems like opposites, but they're actually quite related to each other. Think about how the narrative of AI functions. The narrative of AI is exactly that. It's really crazy to think about it. We on the one hand say we are going to create this intelligence and it will give us more power than any technology that the human has ever come up with until now. And it'll probably subjugate us. It'll probably rise up against us and make us its slaves, or at least control us. And so it's weird that we can actually have that narrative, simultaneously together, like that we can think those two opposite things at the same time. But that's actually how this thing works, right? Usually, the way that you understand it is, the kind of cliche or the story trope is that you at first think that you are downloading this intelligence in order to control it, and then the table flips and it turns out that it's controlling you, right? That's a simple trope. You see that in a lot of stories, a lot of pulp stories, a lot of kind of bad horror movies, all that stuff. You see it happen. You see it in the story of the magician's apprentice in Fantasia, where basically Mickey makes the brooms intelligent in order to do his job for him. But then he loses control of it, and ultimately they turn against him, like they overwhelm him, you could say, and so that he can't control them anymore, right? That's also the story of the golem, where you create this intelligent extension of you, this monster that is like an intelligent robot or kind of an intelligent being, but then ultimately it turns against you. And that is, of course, it's an image of the fall. If you think about it, that is one way of understanding it, which is this desire to take the fruit, and then that desire then rules over you. Like that desire then kind of crushes you, and then you become a slave to desire. And that seems to be what is going on quite a bit in these discussions. And the other thing we really need to think about is really the idea of the strange and the idea of a strange intelligence. Because, if you think about angels or saints, or of course the Logos itself, or God, you have a sense in which you have intelligence, infinite intelligence, of course, in the framed in terms of God, but then let's say lower version of that, let's say like angels. There's a sense in which those angels are related to you, like they're causal to you, right? They are something like your king, your prince, they have a beneficent effect down you. They care for you, and they kind of oversee, like something like that, overseer of reality. So that's what angels do. That's what patron saints are. That's what your guardian angel is a non-human intelligence that is in some ways above you and that is overseeing you. That is very different from these other types of intelligences, like what you could call the alien intelligences or the strange intelligences. The AI doesn't cause humans. The AI isn't naturally the overseer of the human. Neither is the extraterrestrial. Neither is neither is the being that people encounter in psychedelics. None of these are recognized as being your natural overseer. They're recognized as being fascinating, strange intelligence. And so because of that, they represent the foreign influence. That's what they represent. And they necessarily represent that. And it's going to happen in every sense in which we look at this question. And understanding that, understanding the danger of these playing with misunderstood or non-understood alien intelligences, if you see it that way, then the causality doesn't really matter that much. We're not asking ourselves so much what is really happening. That is the question. So, think about the UAP example or the UFO example. You have the idea of alien life form, extraterrestrial life form. And then you have these unidentified lights in the sky, these unidentified flying objects that are kind of invading our heavens and invading our space. And you can ask yourself, and then you can see the government is obviously shifty about it, they're lying or they're disclosing some things and not disclosing others, and they're acting very weird about it. They've been acting like that since the 1960s or maybe the 1950s even. And so people are too obsessed with asking themselves, what are these phenomena? What are the UFOs? What are the aliens that people see? Are they extraterrestrials from other planets? Are they extraterrestrials from another dimension? Are they government, like foreign government, like beings or foreign government weapons that are appearing in our space and are kind of invading us or spying on us? Or are they a psyop from our own government that is lying to us for reasons that we don't understand, for reasons that we don't know? And the thing about all of those is that they're really the same thing in terms of story. What they are is there are alien intelligences that are trying to influence us. And we don't know what they are. We don't know what exactly their purpose is. We don't know what their end goal is. There's a hidden agenda behind the intelligence, and we can't completely discern it. And therefore, it's not like my overseer. It's not like my father or my principality or my guardian angel. It is a foreign intelligence, a strange intelligence. And what I want to do is people are trying to basically encounter this strange intelligence and now gather stuff from it in order to have more power. Now, whether it is that we're going to catch these flying spaceships and we're going to get their tech and we're going to reverse engineer their technology, and if that where does that spaceship come from? Does it come from a foreign government? Is it foreign technology? Is it space technology? Is it technology from the future that is coming back to us? Those secondary questions, obviously they matter for the people that are trying to be powerful, but they don't matter for those of us that are trying to understand what is happening to us. Like, why is it that we are now so minded and obsessed with the question of foreign influence on us? And like I said, this is also what is happening with the whole migrant thing. It's the same as like furries. Like furries are the same. Like people who want to be dogs and cats and be animals. They are obsessed with strange identity and strange intelligence, and they're trying to bring that in to into our experience in order to increase their potential, to like increase. They have a sense that it'll increase their identity. So I think that that's really important to understand as we see this happening. And so it's going to reflect itself mythologically, which is why, whether on purpose or not, the idea of a Stargate, is perfectly reasonable. Because, as you know, if you've been following the symbolic world, then the stars... The stars in the ancient world, they are images of principalities. So the idea that you're creating a gate for a star, you're creating a gate for something that will like act as your principality. That's the final step, is to like treat these foreign intelligences, or some of them at least, as truly our principality, when in fact they're not. They're not, because look at the means by which we encounter them. They're all these like external artificial means and these kind of weird, aesthetic transformations. Like you change your body, like the idea of like changing your body instead of changing your heart. This is the difference between the kind of, let's say, having some kind of augmentation, like a chip in your brain, or wearing a dog's tail, or, getting breast implants, or all of these things. They're all extensions of the same type of problem that we're facing in our society, which is that we are no longer connected to the highest good. We're no longer connected to God. We're no longer see ourselves as being in the image of God. And so now we are basically broke down. Like think about the double move of the Tower of Babel. That's what it is. We tried to like remove ourselves from heaven, to make a name for ourselves, or to reach heaven on our own and not receive the gifts from above. And now we're fragmenting, and now all the gods are fighting, and now all the foreign influences are manifesting themselves. in ways that is haphazard, and it's not clear, it's ambiguous, we don't know exactly what it is that's happening. It's not like a priest standing in front of the church and giving a homily. It's not like the angel Gabriel appearing to the Mother of God and instantiating a new world. No, it's muddled and it's confused, and it looks like those AI videos that are like fragments of intelligence that are connecting with the world and manifesting themselves in all kinds of chaotic ways. They're like residues of intelligence that people are catching and are trying to bring into the world. Those AI videos, like the weird the weird ones that move from identity to another, where clearly the machine doesn't know what it's dealing with and is just kind of gluing different haphazard forms together in order to give you something that connects, at least just in terms of images. That is really an example of what it is we're dealing with, which is why all the imagery around this stuff, whether it's the cyborg imagery, whether it's the furry, whether it's the gender ambiguity, the drag queen is a good example. But then also the lizard people, the idea of lizard that wear like a human mask but are lizards behind. All of the imagery, it's all different versions of the same things. And so I think that we have to be able to see through the smoke and see through the chaos of what's going on and be able to identify beyond the specifics of the thing we're looking at how we're dealing with a very, very large pattern. A very large pattern of, let's say, people who should be worshiping God adrift from their original alignment and purpose, and now just grabbing at anything that seems solid as we're floating away. And so that's my take on what is happening. We definitely need to be very, very attentive and to pay attention to what's going to happen like now, like in the next few months, in the next year, in the next 2 years, how all that's going to come together and and reveal to us, show us what it is that these intelligence want and why they are peeking in on us. And then hopefully that will also wake a lot of people up to the importance of being connected in the right community towards the right transcendent will and right transcendent goals. And so thanks again, everybody, for your support. Truly appreciate it. Since this is the first video of January, first patron video of January, I wish you a happy new year, and I hope you'll have a great 2025. There are clearly exciting things that are happening right now, things that could yield at least a reprieve in the chaos, that could yield some new possibilities, some new seeds, some new shoots that, could give us some hope and give us a path to tread. But we definitely need to not let up on being attentive to what's happening. So I thank everybody for your support, and I'll talk to you very soon. Bye-bye.